800-951-0592. Joe and Jason, Patriot Radio News Hour here on this Friday. Gold's down 32, 2023. Silver's down 40 cents, 25.60. You know what? We've got an interesting item today, something that we have not run, in a very long time. I've got some 1921 Morgans. The 1921 Morgan, this was the last year of the Morgan dollar. Remember, they minted Morgans all the way up till 1904, and then they stopped minting them until 1921, and then, of course, in 1922, they came out with the peace dollar. These are what we call VG plus. So a lot of the Morgans, they get worn out, right? The dates are hard to read. The Lady Morgan is worn down. These aren't really, they're not super worn, but they're not new looking either, right? These aren't like AUs or BUs, but they're in solid condition. They're $795 for 1921 Morgans. I mean, a Silver Eagle today, a roll of Silver Eagles is $880. So, a pretty big difference in that. I mean, but if you went to, as an example, if you went to an AU Morgan, just to give you an idea, you'd probably be paying $880 to $900. And then, of course, you go to the pre-21 Morgans. Pre-21 Morgans, you're probably in AU condition. You're somewhere in the 50s. I mean, that's how crazy these markets are. So, but a pretty good deal here on 1920 rolls of 1921 Morgan dollars. There's 20 Morgan dollars in each roll. There's $795 today at 800-951-0592. So something a little different today, a little piece of history. Of course, you got to remember, why did they come up with the peace dollar? Well, after World War I, right, they thought there would be peace, and then they stopped minting the peace dollar in 1935, and then, of course, right after that, Jason, right, World War II.
Yeah, maybe a little later, maybe on the Half-Empty Cup of Joe, we'll talk a little bit about why the peace dollar even happened. There's a conspiracy there too, Joe. If we get into it, which has a lot to do with what I was talking to you this morning about the crash of the markets in 1893, and there was a lot of silver being mined out west. The Carson City Mint, they just propped that thing up and just started minting tons of coins. And there's a couple of ideas as to why they even minted the peace dollar at all, because in 1904 they stopped minting silver dollars, and the government was pushing towards this Federal Reserve System, which happens in 1913. And they wanted silver out of the way. It was a very freeing type of metal, whereas gold was a little more controllable. They didn't want the gold either, but if they got rid of the silver, gold could have been the next thing, which, of course, they did in 1933 with the help of the Federal Reserve being in charge. So it's just cool to get these Morgan dollars. 1921, they minted the Morgan dollar only for one reason. They needed an act of Congress to get the peace dollar design in place, which they did at the very end of 1921. So they were legally able to mint these 1921 Morgan dollars for the first part of the year, but they really wanted the new design, which they got late in the year. So these are very abundant. That's why they're a little cheaper. And we haven't had Morgans for a while. I mean, Morgan dollars, peace dollars, these are essentially where the half dollars, the quarters, and the dimes are going. They're never going to mint these ever again, not in 90% silver. And over different types of silver demand pushes, which we're going to have another one of those coming up, a lot of these just get melted. All of them. The dollars, these 21 Morgan dollars, you'll see them. If the price of silver goes up enough, these things will just get melted down, and there'll just be less and less of them. So you're getting them at a good silver price, Joe, and hold on to these guys. You never know. You might end up having a collectible that's worth more than the silver if they just keep melting these down over the years, Joe.
Yeah, you never do know. 800-951-0592, and we're starting to talk about another problem arising, right? The storm clouds. Like I said, Jason, we don't guess. We do a lot of research here, and now the states, and obviously the blue states, everybody knows, man, they had problems. They got bailed out during the financial crisis. Then they got bailed out again during COVID. Right now, all of a sudden, and look how it's just, the gap is shorter and shorter and shorter. Here they are in trouble again. Illinois now facing a massive budget deficit. California, look how bad it is. In California, when they first came out with the budget in January, they said, well, we got to come up, we're going to be short $22.5 billion. Through March, that number grew by another over $5 billion more dollars. And now Gavin Newsom saying, because, the tax returns, they're even worse. Jason, they went from potentially $100 billion surplus to $100 billion deficit potentially in a single year. I mean, that's hard to do.
Yeah, you can see why they tried to build up the surplus to begin with. I wonder if they knew that this was that this was coming, Joe. It seems like at some level there's one bean counter out there that knows this stuff is happening. Michael Burry, he's not the only genius out there that sees these things before they happen. And it's like getting fired from a job. Things are doing good, you're getting paid really good, you get fired from a job. 1 year later, your entire world economically has gone the wrong way. Another one of the reasons why we tell people to buy gold and silver, because you never know when your economic situation changes quickly, and you need to have that soft pillow to catch the problem when it happens, Joe. Gavin Newsom, it's like maybe they need a $1 trillion cushion there, Joe. Maybe that would do it.
Well, and again, this is the thing. Well, why is this important? Why do we care? Why do we care about California? Well, we should. California by itself is one of the largest economies in the world. Let's not kid ourselves. The problem here is now California's got to cut even more. They already knew in January, man, we've got to cut $20 billion. Right? Because California doesn't have a printing press, right? So they can't print more money. We've got to come up with $22.5 billion. Now all of a sudden that number, whoops, man, we really overestimated what these tax receipts were going to be. And, of course, everybody's leaving the state. We got commercial. Look at where most of the banks so far that have collapsed are. California Bank, Silicon Valley, California Bank, PacWest, California Bank, right? Signature, I don't know if Signature was a California bank or not, but these are where a lot of these banks are at. And Jason, that just means, hey, the second half of this year, a lot of these states now are going to have to figure out how to spend less money. And again, this is all part of the economy. This is the problem with it all. 800-951-0592. 1921 Morgan, $795 a roll. We'll be back. Eight 800-951-0592. Patriot Radio News Hour. Joe and Jason wrapping up here on a Friday. We've got the 1921 rolls of 1921 Morgan dollars at $795 a roll. Think about it, a roll of silver eagles, $880. Man, I've been doing this for 20 years, and it hasn't been until COVID. COVID kind of changed things. Because you used to be able to buy the Morgan and the Peace dollars really close to Silver Eagle pricing, but even with the huge premiums on Silver Eagles, the Morgan and the Peace dollars, they've also added very significant premiums, but this is a place where at least in this VG plus conditions, you can buy them for significantly less than Silver Eagles. Once you get to the AUs, which is the next level, then all of a sudden you're paying as much or more for those Morgan and Peace dollars than you are for the Silver Eagle. So this is that one, the one place where you can still buy a Morgan dollar for less than a Silver Eagle, Jason.
Yeah, and they don't have as much silver in them as a Silver Eagle, but like I said, the premiums on junk silver are just getting larger and larger, and makes me wonder, Joe, if, like I said, the half dollars are going to get more and more expensive because that's the next biggest coin, and then behind that will be the quarters and the dimes. So when you can get these silver dollars in circulated grade, kind of a nice shape for a decent price. When we offer it, jump all over it, because what did you say, 22 rolls? That's not very much. You could have one guy buy all those, essentially. So if you want to jump on one, don't sit there and think about it, because all it takes is one guy who turns the show in late, and he's like, what? They have Morgans? And they just call in, give me 10 rolls, give me 12 rolls, right, Joe? And then it just goes right by us, and you have to wait for the next one.
And here's another thing why this jobs number just is so baffling today, and I think why Wall Street's ignoring it. Half of the S&P 500 reported earnings. The number of companies complaining about labor cost of the half that have reported plunged 80%. So 4 out of 5 S&P 500 companies that in the previous quarters were like, yes, labor cost is expensive, personal cost, spending on hiring, right, down 80%. And what was interesting, Jason, is guess what it got replaced with? It actually got replaced with reducing headcounts, right? So we have this really interesting dynamic playing out on jobs. Capital One, the credit card company, what's in your wallet? They're saying that they expect a recession before the end of the year, as he said that people falling behind on their credit card payments to Capital One continues to rise. They said the delinquency rate for customers at least 30 days late or more rose 134 basis points, essentially almost doubled in a single quarter where they were before. Now approaching 4% of all of their customers are now at least 30 days late on credit cards at Capital One. And then we found out central banks, Jason, they did not care about higher gold prices. They continued to pound the gold markets. China, Taiwan, India, just to name a few, all continuing to add to their gold holdings. And again, I thought maybe we'd get a little, pullback on that because, gold's now over $2,000, but it's still it's continuing.
Yeah, and you had noticed that there's been these suspicious Friday pullbacks in gold recently, and a new pattern is existing. And during the week, they kind of build it back up.
Last week, listen, we've had these Friday sell-offs 3 out of the last, or now count today, 4 out of the last 5 Fridays, but it did skip last week.
It skipped last week. It was flat last week, but it didn't. Here's the thing: last week, gold didn't really go up a lot. Last week, it kind of stayed stale. Whereas the previous weeks, you got 2,000 moving towards 2050, then back down to 2,000, moving back to the just. It really, we saw the same thing for a few weeks before this when it was trying to break through 2,000, and then it did. Now it's kind of got these few weeks here, Joe, where it seems like it's really trying hard to break through the record high. And what happens when it breaks the record high? How many people are going to see that little headline and start buying, right, Joe? Usually when you break the all-time record high, for some reason, that just puts bells off in people's heads that don't buy gold, and suddenly you got a whole bunch of new buyers that weren't there before because they hear record highs in gold, and nobody wants to miss the big rise in some asset class, and that's just not how gold works. But you know what? We'll be here when the price just keeps going up and up and up, Joe, and people should have been buying well before this. Buy it now because, Joe, 3,000 gold is not that far off.
No, it really isn't. And matter of fact, gold today, I kind of liked it today. We'll see if it stays because it stayed above 2,000 out, right? We're at 2025, kind of slowly inching its way back. and again, some profit taking. This was going to go one way or the other, right? A bad number, which I really thought we were going to get. I thought we were going to see like 150,000, maybe even 130,000. I thought we'd see the unemployment rate not tick up a lot, but I thought we'd see like 3.7 on an unemployment rate, and I thought we were going to see wage growth slow, maybe 0.3 or 0.2. We got none of that. We got 253,000 jobs. We had the unemployment rate fall to 3.4, and they said hiring costs skyrocketed to 0.5%. So a little profit taking here probably makes sense. 800-951-0592. Jason and I wrapping up the week when we get back. (800-951-0592), wrapping up the week. And man, this week didn't start out real interesting, and then it got real interesting real quick. The good news today is, at least for the day, we've got a reprieve on the banking situation, and unfortunately, I kind of view that as bad news, because I think we'd be better off having these things dealt with quickly. Now it looks like it looks like anyway we could be setting ourselves up for another interesting week. Next week we'll have to wait and see how all of this unfolds. But we do have rolls of 1921 Morgan dollars. There's 20 in a roll. There's $795. These are what we call VG plus in the industry. They're not brand new looking, but here's the nice part: they're not really worn out either. They're just they have a lot of what I'll call patina, right, Jason? That's the fancy word, right? A lot of patina on these.
Yeah. These were actually spent. They were used by Americans. They were spent. Obviously, if you have an uncirculated one, it's super nice and crisp and silver looking. But these are more affordable because they were spent. They have the essentially the whole full silver weight of the coin, and they're all 1921s. They made a lot of them in 1921. Makes them more affordable to buy these, and it's won't be too much longer, Joe, the decades to come. These coins are just going to be really hard to get in any form. And I suggest that people get into this. I'm becoming more and more of a fan of utility silver, pre-64 silver, because it's got a lot of upside when you buy it. And so when we rarely get these Morgan dollar buys, you should really jump on and get yourself a roll or two while they're available.
Yeah, absolutely. 800-951-0592. If you're looking to add to gold today, hey, here's the good news. The $10 Liberties, hey, they're back to $12.25. So here we thought, yesterday we thought we were going to be staring $12.50 in the face. But we got a pullback, so the price came back down. $10 libs, $1,225 continues to be the best bang for your buck in that old gold market. And then, of course, today silver's down 35 cents. Silver doesn't care. Premiums don't care. They didn't change the price on silver either. Didn't change the price on utility silver. That tells you the type of market silver's in right now, Jason.
Silver is, the customers come in, they buy their invoices. When I get the invoices, I call people in. Once I've got the product here, they come into my office, and several of the customers, not everybody, but a lot of customers come in. Hey, do you got anything more? Or they bring in whatever their amount is. They have an extra $150. It's like, hey, how much silver can I get for this? And I'm telling you right now, there were times in the last few years where I'd have quite a bit of silver sitting on the desk, and people weren't really picking it up. But now it's like anytime I get a little bit extra silver going on, Joe, it gets scooped up quick. People they don't want change in dollars. They want it in silver now, Joe. When they come to the office here in Colorado.
Yeah, we're seeing the same thing here. That's a really good point. The problem is for a lot of them, right? We just don't have a lot of silver sitting on hand anymore. So God bless everybody. Here's the good news. Jason and I, we're coming right back with the half-empty cup to conclude the week. Have a great weekend. Get out there, enjoy the weather, and we'll be back next week.